So is the Lumix G9 the best value for money, true hybrid camera that's available right now in 2025? I think it is. Welcome back to another video. I just bought a G9 and I have a couple of reasons for buying the G9, especially considering it's very similar to the Olympus EM1 Mark II, which I already own. But I wanted this to pair with the GH5, which I'm shooting on right now, as a second body or a backup body, like a B cam for my work stuff, because I've noticed recently trying to convert OM log 400 to match Vlog L is a nightmare. So I figured I could buy this as a second backup video body. And it also has all of the fun photo features. First of all, let's get something out of the way straight at the top. The reason I think this is the best value for money camera right now is because this cost me £339. That's ridiculous. Now, if you remember in the last video, we were talking about the Canon 200D, and it was sitting around that £300 mark. And when you think about that, feature-wise, compared to the G9, they are leagues apart. Now, as for the main reasons why I bought this, like I said, I was looking at this more as a video B cam to the GH5. And the reason is because it's got really good video features inside this camera. Now, the reason I thought this camera as well particularly, and why it might be worth looking at G9s on the used market, is because this has the Vlog L upgrade. Now, the upgrade alone usually costs, I think it's somewhere in the region of about £100 or something like that. So that makes that an extremely cheap camera, and it has 10-bit 422 video internally, no messing about, plus Vlog. Now, if you're not a video person, you don't know what that means, the difference between 8-bit and 10-bit, and let me just get this straight out of the way, straight at the top, you probably don't need 10-bit. If you're just doing this thing, you don't need 10-bit. But it's a difference between about 16 million colors and some billions of colors. And when it comes to color grading, which is what I do when I'm using it for work stuff, there's a lot more color grading goes on, and you need to be able to push and pull those files a lot further. 10-bit allows this without any funky things happening to the colors or banding appearing or any of that sort of stuff. So that's why I wanted this. And also, if you're not super into video and you don't really know what the difference between Vlog is and all the rest of that stuff, this is what log looks like straight out of the camera. It's very flat, very desaturated, but it allows for a lot more push and pull on the files in post, and then when it's graded, it looks like this. So again, the reason I bought this is as a companion to the GH5, and having two cameras that shoot in the same log profile with the same bit depth and all that sort of stuff makes grading much easier. Converting OM log or even Sony S-Log 2 into the same picture as the GH5, it's just a lot of work, and I think that's just an easy way around it. Now, I was very lucky finding this camera for £339. General price across the board is around £400, but even at that price, especially if you can find one with the Vlog L upgrade, that's a great deal. Now, if you're not familiar with the G9, I'm going to have a quick look around the camera and talk about some of the specs. I'm not going to go into too much depth, as I don't see the point. The camera's been out since 2017. All of that information is already out there and it's been done to death. But a quick look around and talk about, like, this was the flagship for the Lumix Micro Four Thirds system up until 2023 when the G9 II came out. So it's a really powerful camera. So let's have a look around it and then let's have a look at some images. The sensor in the G9 is the same 20 megapixel sensor that you will find in the GH5, which gives you plenty of resolution for images, with the added bonus of this having the high res shot, which will either give you 40 or 80 megapixel images. Like the GH5, the G9 is customizable all to hell. It's got function buttons all over the place, and you can make these do whatever you want them to do. Pretty much every button on this camera is customizable. It also has the 3-inch fully articulating screen, which is a touch screen, which makes it very useful for video, especially for vlogging purposes, and for photo, for getting down in those crazy angles. On the back, we've got all of the usual buttons in all the usual places. We've got a thumb dial up there in the usual place. We've got a dial up at the front, which allows you to change things like aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. On the mode dial, it has kind of a dual function. You have your regular stuff up top, but then below that, you have your varying burst modes. You have your 6K photo, you have your post focus, your self-timer, and your time-lapse modes all on that one dial. Many people who like the tactile dials will really like features like this. Now, I think one of the reasons why my G9 was so cheap is because here by the SD card door, the rubber that covered that has fell off, it's gone. And I don't think this is an uncommon problem, because of all of the ones I looked at, this was missing on quite a few of them. So not the end of the world. I am simply going to buy a piece of leather or rubber and I'm going to just replace it. If you are already using a camera like the GH5, you'll be pleased to know that this G9 uses the exact same battery, so you can use your same batteries and chargers from your GH5. It has all of the fun video features, like I said, 10-bit 422, which does allow you a lot of flexibility in post. It has all of the fun photo features. These Panasonic Lumix cameras have some class-leading image stabilization built into the body, and then when you pair that with a stabilized lens, you get the dual sync stabilization, which gives you massive amounts of stabilization to the point where it's almost gimbal-like. One thing I really like about the G9 is having that top LCD screen. I mean, this has taken a little bit of a knock, which again might contribute to the low price I paid, but it's hardly a deal breaker as it's barely noticeable. But that top screen gives you all of the information you need with regards to exposure and such, without having to go delving into the menus or even looking at the screen. All right then, with that out of the way, let's have a look at those images. So without going into too much detail, how does the G9 compare to the EM1 Mark II? Honestly, I don't think there is really any difference, at least in terms of photo capabilities. You're talking about the same resolution, you're talking about the same sort of dynamic range, same burst rates and all that sort of stuff. The only area where the EM1 Mark II still reigns supreme is in video autofocus. That is, as far as I'm concerned, based on all of the cameras I used, even Sony, it's probably one of the best autofocus systems that I've seen in a camera. The G9 is significantly better than the GH5, but it's still a little bit shaky. It's that depth from defocus thing. It wasn't the best idea, it wasn't the best system, and they knew that because they've now changed to phase detect in their later models. But in the G9, it's had a lot of upgrades since it was released, and it is actually much better than what you're getting from the GH5. It's very usable. And all this talk about dodgy autofocus on Panasonic cameras, and since these last changes, this GH5 seems to be pretty decent. Got to thank Gerald and Dunn for that one. It's like a 6-year-old video. I should have found it before now, but you know, cheers anyway, Gerald. Now, I think this G9 is a perfect example of why shopping on the used market is a fantastic idea. Granted, when you buy new, you get all of that sort of the comfort of having the guarantee and all that kind of stuff. But if you shop at reputable places for used gear, you get a little bit of that peace of mind as well. And when you're talking like £300 versus what they would be new, I mean, you can replace it 3 times, honestly, before you get to the price of a new one. So it's worth bearing in mind. Alright, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. Helps out the channel immensely. And I'll see you in the next one.